welcome to the North Dallas Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the Dallas City Council District 12 Candidate Forum. My name is Jeff Kittner. I'm with the North Dallas Chamber. We are so pleased to have you all here today for a full house for this candidate forum. Before we get started, I'd like to thank a few of our partners in this forum. First, we partner with all of our candidate forums with the League of Women Voters. So I see Elizabeth here. Thank you for Thank you to our candidates, to Kara and Daniel and Cookie, for attending today and most importantly stepping up and being willing to serve your community. So we're really fortunate to have you all here. Thanks to all of you for being here and being engaged in the civics process and learning more about the candidates and being engaged. And hopefully you all are committed to voting. Early voting starts on April 22nd and will run through May 4th, 5th. Fourth. Okay.
May the fourth be with you.
I should know this. I've been talking about it for several months. Finally, I want to thank Deb Rastogi, who is our moderator. Deb is the chair of our Public Policy Council. She also works with Lockwood, Andrews, and Newnham, and perhaps most importantly, is a District 12 resident. So thank you very much to having Deb here. I'm going to turn it over to her in just a second. Oh, yes, of course. Can't forget that. We also want to thank our partners, Richland College Student Media, Jack Fletcher there in the back and his team. All of these forums that we do are being live streamed, and this one will be available probably later this afternoon or tomorrow on the Richland College Student Media website. So please plan to view that when this is finished up. And finally, I don't want to forget, but we are so privileged today to have Dallas City Council member Sandy Grayson here for our candidate forum. And you all note the noon start time for this forum. As many of you all know, Sandy is not a morning person, so we try to accommodate her by having a noon forum. But given the size of this crowd, I think we'll do more noon forums. So. We're going to test the microphone one more time. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Deb, but I do want to draw your attention to one more thing. We at the Chamber do not take positions on individual races. However, we do take advocacy positions, and one thing that we are advocating for is the DCCC, the Dallas County Community College District, has a referendum on the ballot. It'll be the last thing on your ballot, and we are encouraging everybody to vote in favor of the bond election for DCCC. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Deborah Strogi. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you guys for being here today for our conversation with the candidates for District 12. And it really is my pleasure to moderate and to hear from these candidates about their thoughts and ideas about the issues facing District 12, the city of Dallas, and our region. And so we drew names, and Kara is going to start, and then Daniel, and then Cookie, and we're going to just jump right in because I've got a lot of questions. We do have cards that we'll be passing out, so if we do have time for questions, please note them and put them on the cards, and we'll certainly try to get to them if time allows. So with that, we're going to start out with just some opening remarks, and actually I think Kara gets to start. So looking forward to hearing from all of you, and once again I just want to add my welcome to each and every one of you. Thanks.
Do we think it's going to work? Nope. It's okay. Okay, no? You think?
Can you hear me now? Son of a nutcracker.
Why don't I just talk? Hi, I'm Kara Mendelson. I'm running for Dallas City Council because I love Dallas and because this seems like the next logical way for me to serve the community. I have great news to share about being endorsed by a number of organizations. Been endorsed by the Dallas Police Association, the Dallas Fire Association, DGLA, and MetroTex, which is the 15,000 member Realtor Association. I'm also supported by the Dallas Hispanic Firefighters Association. I'm an experienced leader. I'm a nonprofit executive. I run the local affiliate of Rebuilding Together, which provides free home repair for low-income seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities. In the community, I have served a lot of different civic organizations, so I hope you picked up the campaign literature. There's a whole list on the back. It has everything from PTA and Scouts and Jewish Family Service and Salvation Army and Children's Medical. And what you'll see at the bottom is also a list of awards I've received, because I haven't just participated, I've accomplished. And I've been recognized for having moved the mission forward to accomplish the goals. In the city, I've been appointed 3 times by Sandy Grayson, and I have been the vice chair of the Citizens Homelessness Commission. I was on the bond committee for economic development homelessness, the mayor's task force for homelessness, and I currently serve on 2 housing policy task force subcommittees. I'm looking forward to representing the district and serving the whole city. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Powell. I've been a resident of District 12 for about 8 or 9 years. I live in the Bench Trail neighborhood with my dog, Angel, and I had the good pleasure of meeting Councilmember Grayson about 6 years ago, and at that point, she started appointing me to different boards and committees. I've been on the Civil Service Board, which oversaw employment issues with the city. Later, I was appointed to 2 economic development boards, which oversaw the successful implementation of new mixed-use developments in areas of the city that were struggling. Those would include things like new restaurants, retail, and entertainment amenities, new affordable housing to minimize displacement issues from new development, and also infrastructure improvements to boost walkability. Later, I was also appointed to the Bond Program Facility Committee, where I oversaw getting new police security upgrades, new fire stations, library, and art and cultural facility improvements as well. I've also been involved in a number of community meetings throughout the years for everything from Cotton Belt to the Crime Watch. So I've had a lot of good experience. And I'm running for this position because there's a lot of long-standing issues our city has been facing that have gone unaddressed. We need more police officers. We've had a shortage for about 4 years now. We have a rising property tax burden that needs to be addressed. And we also have a lack of mixed-use economic development in our district that's robbing us of quality of life opportunities. And those are the things I'm running to fix. Thank you.
Oops. Okay. Hi, I'm Carolyn Peden. My friends call me Cookie, so you see Carolyn Cookie Peden. I started my career as a teacher with DISD, RISD, in the Community College District. I transitioned from that because in the summer there was nothing fun to do, so I started consulting with various businesses around town. That sort of transitioned over time into full-time employment with American Airlines, where I started as a programmer and worked my way up through the ranks to end up as the head of the data center in Tulsa with a budget of over $160 million and responsibility for over 700 employees. That's part of what I did. I have gotten involved in civic activities for a long time in Dallas. I have a focus on business and economic development in the area. One of the things that I'm proud of is having negotiated and gotten a Sampac Ford dealership in that will be adjacent to the George Bush Turnpike. That will help bring in additional funding for sales tax to Dallas. Also, I managed when an apartment complex went defunct and had no funding, I managed to get that recoded as single-family development. So we have 780 single-family homes going in North Dallas. I have 10 seconds. I tried to get the Cotton Belt to come south so we could redevelop Valley View and the Galleria area. That one didn't pan out, I'm sorry to say.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to jump right into the questions. All right, the first question, Daniel, will start. And again, just as a reminder, we have 90 seconds for each of these questions for the responses. So do you think the 2017 bond election adequately addressed the needs of District 12? And if a bond election were presented while you're a council member, what areas of need would you prioritize for those funds?
Great. Well, great question. I would say that the bond election for District 12 did some really great first steps. First of all, we got a lot of money for streets in our district, not only for neighborhood streets and thoroughfares, we also got money for alleys and for sidewalks, I believe, as well. So infrastructure, it did help for that. It did also help with neighborhood parks, for example. Far North Dallas has been known as a park desert for quite some time. A lot of people wouldn't think about that when it comes to our district. So, for example, my neighborhood and some other neighborhoods, we got new parks that are coming in, and the opportunity for connecting trails as well. On top of that, if there were other new bond programs that would come in, I would advocate for continued improvement to our streets, also some more erosion control. There's some different areas where we have streams in our district where some people need some help with erosion control in the neighborhoods, so that could be helpful. And I would pursue some opportunities like that. Thank you.
Next.
Same question.
Same question. Well, I'm still hearing complaints about alleys. So I think we still need to continue working on some of our alley redevelopment. We have a lot of other buildings in Dallas that need attention. I think if we have a bond issue, that it needs to address some of those things. The sad part about our bond program is that we have bond elections every so often. And in the period between one bond election to another, we often have facilities that deteriorate rapidly. Then instead of being an ongoing maintenance type of thing, it becomes a major redo. I think if we can try to get better at managing our bonding funds, that we may be able to address those things before they reach critical mass and we have to go in and completely replace those facilities.
So I'll agree that we did get some prioritization on streets, and that's awesome because we need it, and the streets in Dallas are in terrible condition. And even with half the bond really going to that kind of infrastructure, the projection for the city is for them to continue deteriorating. So to the point that we're not maintaining what we have a huge infrastructure issue. One of the things that shocked me to find out was that 75% of the traffic signals in Dallas were installed between 1940 and 1980. They have a 20 to 25 year lifespan. It's another example of where we're not taking care of our infrastructure, we're not maintaining it, we're not replacing it. And so all these bond elections we've had, we haven't ever put that in there. So I think what we have to do is stop looking at the very fancy projects like yesterday when they approved another $7 million to fix the McDermott Bridge that is already costing taxpayers $115 million minus a couple dollars that the Trinity Conservancy put in themselves. We need to stop that, and we need to go back and focus on the infrastructure. In our district, we got one of the smallest allocations for the bond.
Okay, parks and trails and green space, as you mentioned, are important to enhancing the quality of life in any city. District 12 has many favorable aspects, but you know, the trails, parks, and green space are not among them. So are we doing enough in this area? How would you make that a priority? How might you look at funding and your views on the Trinity River Park? So.
Well, I'm a master gardener, so you can tell where my loyalties lie. I really do want us to put more time and effort into building green infrastructure up here. We really do have a park desert in this area. So we need to focus on that. We also need to get some of you wonderful people out volunteering to help maintain our trails and things. I think that would help us tremendously with some of the cost of maintaining. I also worked on the rewrite of the tree and landscape ordinance for the city of Dallas. So that is something that I think will help with greening up our areas. There's also a proposal to come in with a voluntarily participated in neighborhood forest overlay. So if you want to protect trees and landscape in your area, you will have an opportunity to get with your neighbors and define one of those little neighborhood forest overlays. But we did make tremendous progress this year in getting that tree ordinance in place. It will protect a lot of our trees. It will help do something that's been a pet peeve of mine. Since I was a child, I do not remember a single summer when we have not had ozone alerts. By having that tree ordinance in place, it helps us get cleaner, healthier air for all of our citizens.
So we have a great quality of life in far north Dallas. How many people actually live in District 12? Yeah. So if you went South Dallas and you saw the incredible parks that they have there, large parks, lots of amenities, lots of activities, you would be shocked because we don't have them. When my family went to take the campaign picture that's on the literature, we couldn't even think of a place in District 12 where we'd have some nice greenery. Because you know what happens when your kids, I have 3 sons, when you go to take those homecoming pictures, you go over to Canyon Creek in Richardson, you go down to Highland Park, or you go up to Plano. We don't even have that. It's crazy in our district. And if you think about it, think about where you took your last family photo and you'll know what I'm talking about. So we need to prioritize having some luscious, wonderful green park space, having a trail underneath electric wires. This is not a park, okay? This is just a use of space. So we need to be doing something completely different and something much more significant. Would love to see that. I think the tree ordinance is ridiculous. It was 12 years in the making. That neighborhood overlay, you know what it's going to do? It's going to cause you a fine if you decide to chop down one of your own trees. Thank you.
Yes, so parks and trails are very important for quality of life and for property values for our district. One thing that we can focus on is a lot of our neighborhoods have floodplain areas that can't be developed, and they're small areas kind of in the corner of their neighborhoods. We can focus on putting small neighborhood parks there. Forson Park is one that comes to mind as a good example, and there's some other ones as well. Also, we can look into getting more green standards when we come and do more development. So we can look into things like green roofs and water capture runoff that you can use to irrigate things. You can also look at incorporating complete green streets instead of just complete streets alone. That actually incorporates more trees and greenery and reduces our stormwater drain impact as well. So there's a lot of things from a development standpoint we can do to make our city greener. And then also to your point about the Trinity River Basin, first of all, the most important thing is we need to listen to the Army Corps of Engineers to make sure that the levees are safe with whatever we do within the Trinity. And at the same time, we also want it to be a very natural park. You know, I've heard really good things about the Houston Buffalo Bayou Park, for example. And, you know, we can incorporate some artistic installations, very natural habitats, and walking and bike trails as well. And we can really use that as a great jewel while still preserving safety in the Trinity River Basin. Thank you.
Okay, question number 3. District 12 is unique in that we have multiple, oh, you guys can't hear me? All right, District 12 is unique in that multiple school districts comprise our council district. What role do you see the City of Dallas and a City Council representative in particular plays in education, and do you support the Dallas Community College District referendum? So, Danielle, I think you're up.
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, so I am a longtime pro-public education advocate. My treasurer is actually the founder of Texas Parent PAC. I have 2 lifetime PTA memberships. I was the PTA council president in Plano ISD. So our district has Dallas County, Collin County, and a little sliver of Denton County. And the Collin County section is Plano ISD. Every one of those schools is a Title I school. I currently live in the Richardson ISD, which is where I graduated from Pierce, and 2 of my oldest sons as well. I have a freshman at Pierce right now. Do I support DISD? Of course I do. I'm sorry, Dallas County Community College, yes I do. How should we work with the school districts? Well, I'll tell you, they're desperate to have a partner and working with them. I've talked with both superintendents, and we would have regularly scheduled quarterly meetings. There's a lot of things that we might be able to help support them. Cities don't run school districts. So when the mayor candidates are all talking about how they're going to support the ISD, be really careful. They have their own elected board, right? But there are ways with security, with infrastructure, you know, there's kids walking to school with no sidewalks, things like that that we can help do as a city. And we need to hear from our partners what their most urgent needs are and meet with them regularly to take care of that. Thank you.
I think
If
you would like to go, yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Daniel. Sorry about that.
She's just very eager, which is good. So yes, I've actually been endorsed by Candace Valenzuela, who is a school board member for Carrollton Farmers Branch. One of the most important things she liked about my platform is my support for affordable housing as a part of mixed-use, mixed-income development within District 12. One of the biggest issues that they have for their school district, because they have a high percentage of economically disadvantaged students, as well as Richardson ISD, is what's called the mobility problem. Students can't sometimes stay in the same school throughout the entire year, a lot of times because their parents might get priced out of their homes. So one of the issues is that by having more affordable housing, for example, it can keep students in their same home for longer, for the whole school year, so they don't get their progress derailed by having to change schools mid-year. Also on top of that, we can look at zoning improvements to help schools. I know with, I believe it's Walker Middle School in the Preston Hollow area, they were trying to expand to K through 8, so they were able to get zoning improvements under Jennifer Gates to help accommodate for that growth need. So we can look at that. Also, I'd like to look at getting DART access. So if there's parent-teacher engagement nights or other important engagement meetings, you can give low-income families more access to the schools during those times through maybe DART busing, for example. And also we can partner with schools through trade skill development, especially in southern Dallas, for example, to help engage new wages. And I do support the DCCC bond. Thank you.
Okay, now good.
Sorry, I was a little focused on something. Before I answer the question, I'd like to clarify something on the tree ordinance. Please do not think that the City of Dallas is trying to usurp any of your control. There is nothing in that ordinance that says as a private landowner, you will be penalized for cutting down a tree in your own yard. If you have a yard that's well over 2 acres, then you might need to coordinate with the city arborist and work with some other people. But if you have a normal sized lot like most of us do, you will never be penalized for cutting down a tree. So I want to make that clear because I didn't want you leaving here with a misperception. Obviously, since I've taught in the Community College District, I wanted to let you know that obviously I support the Community College District. It's a fantastic organization. I love the fact that you have gifted seniors and undergraduates at regular high schools that can participate in those programs offered, that they can go ahead and be earning college credits while they're there, still finishing out their high school. I don't think I'll need my whole time because I'm obviously biased on this issue.
Did you want to talk about the City of Dallas and the representatives, role in the school district?
Sure, I'll address that.
Since you've got a few.
Okay, I've got a couple of seconds left. Now I'm rattled. Okay. City of Dallas, I think, depends on its city council to provide some guidance, but it's not in a position for the city council to rule or govern DISD. It's there as an advisory committee, so I think that is beneficial. I don't want to see any organization controlling our educational system. Thank you.
All right, you might want to stay standing because I think that
I believe it's my turn
you're
next, yes.
you're next. Okay, great. I'm glad you guys are policing yourselves. So recently in the news, there have been several stories about city council members pleading guilty for various financial crimes. And as a city council member, how would you combat these ethical concerns, and would you support increasing pay as part of that approach for the mayor or city council?
So yes, we do have an ethics problem, and a lot of it does happen to revolve around development as an example. So one thing that we can make sure we do, Raquel Favela, who used to be Chief of Economic Development, and she has since left the city, she made a really great suggestion that when council members meet with developers, that they should turn over a lot of the negotiations and that process to city staff. And once city staff irons out all the details, they can present it later on to the city council for the vote. I think that utilizing city staff as a non-political way to iron out a lot of the negotiations and details would be very helpful. We do need city council input at the very beginning to make sure that goals of the city from a political standpoint, like protecting neighborhoods, meeting affordable housing goals and things like that, that's something that the city council members need to address. But ironing out the details of the contract negotiations and financials, city staff should do that. Also, when it comes to meeting with developers, I'd be in favor of making sure that I have an economic development staff member with me when I do those meetings, so that way we can address having a thorough set of eyes in the room. On top of this as well, I'd like to actually look at other ways to combat ethics challenges. I'd like to reform what we designate as a designated zoning case. Right now the thresholds are so high that a lot of things that fall into zoning case issues, they're too high or too large, so basically the regulations don't apply. Thank you.
Next.
You're next.
I'm asking permission now. Okay. I think one thing that we need is better standards of looking at records and making sure what's going on. We've not had good audit practices in the city of Dallas for a time, and I think we really need that kind of visibility, whether it comes to city council or other organizations where we have contracts. I think everything that we do, we need to do standard accounting procedures don't hurt anybody if everybody's playing by the rules. The ones that will be caught are the ones that are deviating from the standards that we have in place. So I believe that good, solid auditing procedures need to be there to help control and minimize any kind of, I don't want to use the term fraudulent, that's a very negative thing. I think most of our people at City Hall are very honest, forthright people. Employees, our city council representatives. Every once in a while you have a situation that we've seen recently. So I think if we just put in good standard accounting and auditing practices, we should be okay.
Well, I think it's an incredibly sad situation, and frankly, it happens way too often, and I don't ever want our city to have that reputation. We know cities around the country where we say, Chicago, right? And we all kind of go, oh, how does that work? The number one issue really is we're electing people who don't have a background that has, where they have been proven, right? So in my case, I have worked for so many different nonprofits. I've either been the treasurer, I've been the president, I've been a signer of checks that have been audited, that have been verified by boards. You can have a certain trust, you can have a certain integrity, and when the electorate will vote for people who have that kind of experience, I think you're going to end up with a group that has a higher level of integrity. The problem with what Daniel's saying is leaving it to staff is that unfortunately corruption isn't just our elected officials, it includes the staff. And if you've worked with the city, you know this is actually true. So I've worked with code compliance and had to call several city council members because things that are happening that are not appropriate. And so we have a big issue in this city, and it's going to have to start with really strong measures when it happens. And you know, I was sorry to see, frankly, that we just had somebody who was sentenced to home confinement who did the bribery. Well, he should be going to jail also. And we should say we are not a city that will allow this.
All right, Cookie, you're up.
Uh-oh.
So this, I just want to give you, let you know, DART has the largest light rail system in America, and is working towards a Cotton Belt regional rail line and a D2 subway line. And so would you explain your views on these two projects in the region?
Okay, those of you in District 12 probably already know that I have helped neighborhoods argue against the Cotton Belt coming through. Well, I'm happy to say that we couldn't stop it because it's needed by our sister cities. But what we have been able to do for those people who reside directly along the railroad tracks, we've been able to, okay, let's put this differently. I don't want to blame anybody else. I took responsibility and argued with DART and managed to get the mitigation budget for those people adjacent to the tracks boosted from $7 million to $29 million. I don't want to blame anybody else, so I'll take responsibility for that. Because we do have some people who are adjacent to the walls, to the tracks that need better soundproofing, better vibration control so that their lives will not be totally disrupted. There are benefits for other people along the system so that they will get benefits of being able to take the train if they want. It will not be light rail. I keep saying that and I hope people will hear it. It will be a commuter rail system with a diesel electric hybrid system. So it will be probably a lot more efficient to operate than what we currently have. Thank you.
Oh, got it. So I think DART's been a disaster for our district, and I would love to see the Cotton Belt stopped. We did not have strong enough leadership to make that happen. We were supposed to have a single track. We've got a double track. We were supposed to have an electric engine. We've got the diesel hybrid. And now we've got in our suburban neighborhood people who are going to have 12, 15-foot walls in their backyards. I think it's a danger to our kids. I think it's a danger to public safety who has to cross the tracks. So I would love to see it stopped. Can it be stopped now? I don't know. I hope so. There is a bill in Austin, I'll get you the number if you like, that says that they might be able to do that. I don't know if that's true. But I know that if I'm elected, I will hold DART to everything that has been outlined, that's been prescribed, but if we could stop it, we should. When they couldn't do the Natinsky plan, I would have loved to see them pick up that track and move it along the highways where it belongs. Thanks.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Councilmember Grayson for securing a lot of the betterments and mitigations that will make things less impactful for the district. From higher walls, more tire aggregate, and quiet zones, that's going to be beneficial. And it's going to help reduce the impact. Also, DART's going to be a good neighbor and insure private properties during the construction process. That way, if there's any damage to private residences, they will be able to make that whole. Now, I think we might actually be able to benefit potentially from parts of what's going to happen with the Cotton Belt. I think people will like the hike and bike trail. And also at the last Cotton Belt meeting for our district, where I was the only candidate present, we actually were promised that, we could potentially get more accessibility. A lot of the district residents were concerned that they didn't have access to the actual rail. So if we actually got a stop at Coit, the Highland Springs retirement community might be able to access it, ride to downtown Plano, and neighborhood residents might be able to park and ride, for example. Now, the bill that Kara is mentioning was from Connie Burton, and one of the downsides to that bill is, yes, although it would require a vote from every jurisdiction in case of federal rail funding, and that might potentially be able to stop the Cotton Belt if it gets passed. It is kind of a short-sighted bill because that bill has such broad language. It would also jeopardize D2 downtown subway and also high-speed rail, which are massive economic development opportunities for our city, and we don't want to have short-sighted leadership in that. Thank you.
Okay, Kara, you're getting us up on this one. So the current mayor has pushed for the implementation of a Grow South initiative. And, sorry, I thought I was mic'd up. The current mayor has pushed for the implementation of a Grow South initiative. And what are your plans to invest and improve in the quality of life in South Dallas while promoting economic development in District 12? And I want you to talk about this, especially as we consider the 85-15% tax imbalance. So, Kara, would you respond?
So I think the mayor's done a great job with Grow South in terms of promoting it, right? We've all heard of it, but not a lot has actually happened in these last 8 years with Grow South. With Rebuilding Together, I'll tell you that I'm in South Dallas very often. Most of the homes that we serve are in South and West Dallas. And so I've seen how people are living, and they're living in very difficult conditions with no way to change them. And so we do have a huge tax imbalance where 85% of the tax dollars are coming from the north and only 15% from the south. And really, this is the answer. I mean, the mayor's spot on that if we can grow South Dallas in that tax base, we will have less of a tax burden and the entire city will thrive. So how do we do that? We've got a TIF for the new houses along Coit Road that's actually funding the university area down in South Dallas. And so I think that's a way where there's not really an impact to us directly, but we are helping elevate that. And what we've seen with our TIFs is that our initial property valuation was $3.5 billion. And now, at the end of last year, 2018, it was over $16 billion. We've seen where these TIFs have spurred this economic development that's been important for the entire city. And so while I'm not sure I would have voted for every single TIF project, in general, TIFs are an excellent way for us to grow the valuation in our community.
Okay, I think might be my turn.
I just get so excited.
Yeah, this is very eager. That's good. That's good. So, yes, so Grow South has had some successes. For example, it's grown the tax base by, I believe, 36%. And from one report I read, it grew faster than the northern half as well, from a percentage standpoint. So, yes, he's had some successes. How we can help spur growth in southern Dallas is we can focus on certain hubs that are ripe for redevelopment. UNT Dallas and Paul Quinn College, that corridor, I think is a really great area we could start to focus on. Also, Redbird Mall is a great area to focus on. They've already had some early success. Now, when it comes to far north Dallas and the northern half and economic development in our district, I'm the only one who's advocating for mixed use, mixed income redevelopment strategy with ground floor restaurant, retail, and amenities. That would actually boost our quality of life and our property values as well. So I think that's going to be very beneficial. And what were the rest of your question? Excuse me?
How would you, how would you propose to continue to invest in South Dallas while you're?
Yeah, thank you. So the other thing we can do for investing in South Dallas is to also promote wage growth. So we can focus on getting trade skill development to help people who are graduating from high school. Also apprenticeship programs for adults that might not have a college degree. We can also focus on blue collar jobs like manufacturing and logistics and service industry jobs to get wage growth. And then, like I said, also that targeted redevelopment of certain hubs to be a launching pad for the rest of Southern Dallas. Thank you.
Okay, I'll address that question in 1 second, but I want to clarify a couple of things about DART. There basically is no way DART can be stopped with the Cotton Belt line right now because they already have their federal funding. It's already in place. They're within 3 to 4 months of commencing construction. I did miss one meeting, but I had a surrogate there so that somebody could fill me in on what happened. But DART will be coming through. So I'm just glad that we've got some mitigation to help the neighborhoods out because it will not be stopped. Just wanted to clarify that. And the chair of the DART board is here. I will not point that person out in case they want to escape unscathed. But she's waving at me back there, so I guess it's okay. Sue Bowman is our chairman of DART board. She is a longtime person who's worked with DART. She's at the back of the room. Thank you, Sue. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to embarrass you. Okay. To answer the question about Grow South, I think for a long time we have used the southern sector as a dumping ground. And we do put things down there that are things we would not allow in North Dallas. For example, all but 2 of the batch concrete processing plants are in South Dallas. The other 2 are in West Dallas. We need to find a way to equalize and provide good opportunity for people down there without using them as the dumping ground for things. I do want to take 1 second to say I support putting in our schools a revamp of our vocational educational programs. We desperately need that for the city of Dallas.
Okay, this one's for you, Daniel, starting. What is your position on the city of Dallas's involvement in high-profile corporate relocations? And would you support a high-profile relocation in District 12? And if so, where?
Very good question. So, first of all, I support seeking out corporate relocations because of the many benefits that they bring. I believe that when we offer incentives, it needs to be tied to important city priorities, like it needs to be tied to the types of jobs that are being brought in, the salary level and the number of jobs. It needs to be tied to infrastructure and affordable housing and also workforce development and training. It also needs to be proportional to the amount of benefit that we will receive. So for example, if we do a cooperative bid with other cities, if it relocates to Dallas proper, we'd obviously pay more of a share of the incentives compared to if it goes to a Frisco or a Gunter, for example, something like that. So I think those incentives are important, and it would actually benefit us from getting a higher property tax revenue, sales tax revenue, hotel tax revenue, and the return on investment would more than justify certain major corporate relocations. If it was going to be in District 12, for example, because we have great schools, one area that I think would be very beneficial is we have a lot of aging apartment complexes, especially on the western half of the district. There's a lot of opportunity there, I think, to look into redeveloping some of those areas, and there's also good infrastructure there. So I think the western half of the district could be pretty ripe for redevelopment. Thank you.
Me?
You
Okay.
again?
I was waiting this time. Oh. When they first started coming, I was one of the people who said, oh, let's get Amazon here. The more I have thought about that, that could easily have been a blessing that they went elsewhere. Because what we've seen happen, even with the Enterprise Fund at the state of Texas, we have businesses who promise us, I'm going to bring in 500 new jobs. And after 3 or 4 years, they only have 10 new jobs there. So if we have that situation, I think we need to have contracts with those companies that say, yes, we want businesses here, but we also need to have some contractual obligations that say, if I don't deliver what I promise as a company, then I get back part of that incentive that we've given them for the city. By proportion, if they deliver 10% of the jobs that they promised, then they get to keep that 10%. But we need to have a way to hold companies accountable for what they do. I'm accountable for managing what I promised to somebody. You're accountable for what you promised to somebody. We should hold businesses accountable the same way that we hold ourselves accountable.
So Dallas is a great place to be. We don't even need to incent people to come here. They're coming here all on their own. Do I think we should incent them? Absolutely. Do I think we should give them $600 million to get Amazon here? No way, that's crazy. So there's got to be some sort of balance, right? If you're going to come and you're going to invest in Dallas and you're going to set up your business here, we want you. We want to make this a great transaction. We want to grow our base. But should we give away $600 million for Amazon? No. I think District 12 is a fantastic place for people to be, right? We've got great schools because we have no part of DISD. We're the only district like that. If they want to have people that live in Plano or Frisco, they can do that. So this is a fantastic place for businesses to relocate, and we should be working with the city closely to pitch our part of town. That said, where could it go? You know what? Frankfurt and the Tollway is prime space, and we've got lots of empty retail there. We've got lots of housing, and by that I mean apartments that could be revamped, and I hope they will be, because if you are on Ring and you get all those notifications of all the different crimes that are happening, you know that this is a hot spot for us, and I think that's a great place for it to be.
Okay, all right. Affordable housing is a key element in improving the quality of life for thousands of Dallasites. What is your view on a solution for this important issue?
Yes. Is it my turn?
I believe so.
Okay, that's great. Just want to double check. All right, so.
No, maybe not. It's cookie.
I think that
Is it
I'm going to
cookies?
go ahead.
Okay.
I'm going to go
Okay,
ahead.
all mixed up.
Cookie. I think it's cookie.
Is it?
Okay,
That's right.
I'll take that. You know, when I look around in this area, I don't see as many issues with affordable housing as I see in other sectors of the city. We do have some issues. The main thing I hear about affordable housing is primarily coming from a lot of our seniors and a lot of our young people. Seniors who've lived in their houses for a time have complained about the taxes, that some of them say that on fixed income, they're literally at risk of being taxed out of their homes. I hear the opposite of that from young people who want to get into their first home and yet are challenged because they can't afford the real estate values we've seen mushroom in the city of Dallas, especially in North Dallas. So we have a big broad spectrum. I don't have a ready solution for that right now. I really don't. I wish I did. I'd get probably millions of dollars in funding. But we don't have it as bad up here. We have lots of apartments that can accommodate those people. I've been talking to various developers about trying to come in and building smaller scale houses instead of 4 and 5 bedrooms. If we had small cottages, those might be affordable to young people. Or if they're custom built homes that accommodate people and allow seniors to age in place, that would be a fantastic benefit to this part of town. I don't want seniors having to leave an area they've lived in for 30 or 40 years so that they can find a home.
So do you know that our district actually has more apartments in it than any other district? Yeah. So they're aging, and there's a lot of issues with them, right? So if you think about over by McCallum and Coit, there's a whole city of apartments. When you think about the Tollway in Frankfurt, there's a whole city of apartments. And when you think about over by Midway and Rosemead and all the way back, another whole city of apartments. We actually already have affordable housing in our district. I've worked significantly on housing for the city. As I mentioned, I work on, I'm serving on 2 housing policy task force subcommittees for the Homeless Commission, and for the bond, there's $20 million set aside that's really designated for housing. And the housing is hopefully gonna bring some innovative solutions to how we can provide affordable housing for people. What we're talking about are people who are living 80% of the area median income or lower. And that's a significantly smaller number than the homeowners in our district. So actually with Rebuilding Together, our district is the only one I haven't been able to serve because the income levels are too high. So we have affordable housing in our district. We don't need more. It's why all of our schools are Title I for Plano. It's why in Richardson ISD, most of the schools are Title I. This is not our issue. For the city, it's a significant issue, and one where there is a plan and one that we should work on. Thank you.
This question is by far the starkest contrast between my opponents and myself. I believe that we need a blend of mixed use, mixed income developments in our district. So that includes market rate along with and mixed in with affordable rate units. These are not going to be the same as Section 8 housing that some people are sometimes scared of. And the important thing is you want to have affordable housing because it prevents the growth of homelessness. It also will keep school kids in the same schools throughout the year to prevent the mobility problem. And also, housing units as part of a little bit more density is vital for redevelopment because it costs money to redevelop strip centers and aging apartment blocks into nice new high quality mixed use developments. There's acquisition, demolition, architecture, construction costs, and we're going to be stuck with the same rundown strip centers and rundown apartment blocks unless we redevelop with a little bit more density. That shouldn't be, make people too afraid. And we want to have a blend of market rate and affordable units. Now, without that housing component, our developers can't make a return on investment. And unfortunately, for the last decade or so, we've had a well-intentioned policy of no new apartments within our district that's been echoed by both of my opponents. But unfortunately, that policy has stifled any redevelopment that would get rid of a lot of these rundown strip centers and apartments. Thank you.
Okay, all right, we just have a couple more questions. Jeff, do we have
Quite a few audience questions.
Okay. Is there one that we need that we should ask at this point? I've got two more, and I just want to see how much time we've got.
We got 10 minutes.
Okay. Would you guys want an audience question and one more from me? Let's
Sure.
do one audience question.
All right. I've got a lot of great questions, so thank you all for submitting these audience questions and plenty more. I've tried to curate them to get some good questions, but let me start by asking. Like with any business or organization, Dallas has a limited budget. How would you prioritize the needs of District 12 versus the needs of other districts in Dallas and in Dallas in general?
So Karen.
Well, every district in the city has needs, and of course I would be representing the district and be the advocate for the district, but we can't have one district pitting against the other. And when you watch council meetings, sometimes you'll see that the council member only wants to know, but how will this affect my district? And that's actually been, I think, the challenge of the 14-1 form of government, that people get so entrenched in just their one piece that they're not looking out for the whole. And I firmly believe, as a person who's worked with lots of different coalitions, that we are always stronger together, and we've got to make sure every part of our city is working together and has that strength. With different nonprofits, I've spent a lot of time working in lots of different areas in the La Bajada community, in the Fair Park area, in Vickery Meadow, and these areas, people are living sometimes like a third world country. And that's not the Dallas I know and love and want to be part of. And so, do they need money? They do. And when I tell you that we have some of the lowest bond allocation for North Dallas and for our area, if you told me, well, that money's going to South Dallas and we need it to go there, I would be with you. And I'd be like, you know what, I understand that. But that's not what's happening. It's that the strongest council members are getting the largest portion, and so that money's going to East Dallas and West Dallas. And so, we've got to make sure that when we look at the city and we look at the comprehensive needs, we are putting that money where it's most needed. Thank you.
So when it comes to budget prioritization for District 12, I would focus first of all on major infrastructure. So maintaining the quality of our streets, maintaining and improving the quality of our streets, alleys, and sidewalks. Also, don't forget the water mains, for example. We lose a lot of water just through leakage, and that ends up being a big cost to us. So a lot of basic infrastructure. Also, we could focus on areas that our district is a little weak. So we have very little art and cultural installations in our district. We could focus on those areas. We could focus on getting more parks and recreation options as well. So how to boost quality of life in those ways. So I would focus on those areas if I was able to budget prioritize for District 12.
I remember a book called Goals for Dallas. Does anybody here remember that book? That was a vision for what needed to happen for the city of Dallas. One of the things that I think is really important is that we don't seem to have a unified goal right now. What I would like to see us do is get different groups together and get them to look at what are the needs. We do this on streets right now. There's a needs analysis that goes through and it classifies our streets in terms of what needs to be repaired. And that's what feeds into our bond program. If we could come up with a survey like that that would say what are the various needs across the city and get people to look outside their little silos and come up with a consensus of what direction we need to go, I think that would help us tremendously. I've driven through various parts of town, and we are so lucky up here. We have it much better than many other parts of town. That doesn't mean I want us ignored. It simply means that we have other needs, and I think most of us are generous in spirit enough that we can evaluate and look at those priorities and make a determination of what is best for the city of Dallas as a whole. That's kind of what they tried to do in the book, Goals for Dallas, is prioritize things and set goals to go after. I think that might be the best way to solve it, so we do dispel the silos.
I have an audience question that I think can be answered in 10 seconds or less, and we'll start with Daniel. You're up. What is the most pressing issue facing District 12?
The most pressing issue facing our district is, frankly, the lack of mixed-use economic development that's happening. We have fantastic schools and neighborhoods that attract people here, but we're surrounded by blighted strip centers and blighted apartment complexes. We can make quality of life so much better by redeveloping those. Thank you.
Cookie.
I'm going to echo what I hear when I walk and have been campaigning with people, and that is that people in our area are most concerned about public safety right now. That's the number one issue I hear touted. I know people are tired of hearing that, but that's what I think is really important up here, because that's the feedback I'm getting every time I talk to people in the district.
Yeah, we're down 600 police officers in this city. Our response time going through the roof. Assaults in just 1 year up 45%. Yesterday, 2 days ago, we had at gunpoint a store owner robbery, and it took the police over an hour to respond. If you can't do business because of our police response, we're all in trouble. So that has to be our number one. Number two has to be our response rate for our ambulances in our district is the slowest in the entire city. We have only one full-time ambulance for our 3 firehouses, and we have a peak time at 4 o'clock. We've got to have 2 full-time. We are an aging district, and it's unacceptable for the level of taxes we pay that we're not getting the kind of response we deserve.
Okay, guys, we're in the home stretch. 2 more questions. Okay, this one, I think it's a combined question that I have and an audience question. Are you supporting one of the mayoral candidates, and if so, who and why? So,
Is that me?
I think it goes to you. Well, it may have been Cookies.
So I'm not supporting anybody. I've had a number of them ask if we could team up, and I have worked with a number of them in different nonprofit capacities. I'm not supporting them because honestly I expect to get elected and I want to get to work right away. And if you know anything about the people who have been mayor, is that they want you on your team, and if they find you have not been, you are punished. And I want to hopefully be appointed to chair a committee. I want to get things done for us right away, and so I'm not willing to align with anybody.
Similarly, I haven't taken any stance in favor of a particular mayoral candidate. I do believe I could be able to work together with whomever gets elected, and so that's what I would plan to do. So I have not aligned with any particular mayoral candidate.
This is quick. I'm as confused as you are. There are too many, and I have not had the time to adequately research who is the best candidate. So I'm in the same quandary you are. I don't know who I'm going to vote for yet.
All right, okay, last question, and
guess
goes
it's
to you,
myself, yeah.
Daniel. All right, so if you knew you were only going to serve for one term, as a council representative for District 12, what is the one thing that you would want to be known for in that period of service?
Only one thing to be known for.
Only one,
Oh my
your
gosh.
legacy.
The number one thing, there's a big citywide issue that was alluded to. The citywide number one priority is public safety. The district-specific number one issue, in my opinion, is lack of mixed-use development. If I could only be known for one thing, it would be fixing the police crisis that we have. Basically, I'm the only one who's offered a plan for how to pay for up to 600 more officers at $60,000 a year for $36 million total, by basically reducing our participation in TIF districts. And by doing that, we can leverage other economic development tools to offset that reduction in TIF spending. And we could actually reallocate some of that money from development dollars back to city services like getting more police. So if I could only do one thing, it would be to restore the police department.
This will be short. The only thing I would want to be known for is that I had adequately and honestly represented the people in my district.
So I would want to be known for what I'm already known for, which is effective leadership. And I think that spans a lot of different topics, but I have always given 100% of myself to whatever I'm working on and gotten things accomplished, and that's what I would want to do for you.
Okay, so that is it for the questions. I want to have the audience and myself just thank you guys for running for this office and for your thoughtful responses. A couple of things. One is, I think Jeff mentioned, you can vote from April 22nd only through May 4th. You cannot vote on May 5th, so don't go out and try it. Also, if you happen to have a free lunch next Thursday, in front of you is a terrific program that the North Dallas Chamber has. It's our annual meeting, and you get to hear Chairman and CEO of Southwest Airlines, Gary Kelly, and we hope that you will join us for that exciting event. And so that concludes our conversation with the District 12 candidates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.